In our headlines on this Tuesday afternoon, December 12th. President Zelenskyy is poised to visit Dutch tech firm ASML on this Tuesday and will become the first foreign leader to tour a clean room manufacturing facility there as he pledges to establish a chip alliance with the Netherlands. Over in the Middle East, Israeli forces are reiterating calls on Palestinian militants to surrender, claiming that Hamas is nearing its breaking point in northern Gaza as its remaining two strongholds have been surrounded. Also in the Middle East, the host of this year's Global Climate Summit, the UAE, is seeking a joint statement on climate action as curtains are set to go down on COP28 later on this Tuesday. We start in Amsterdam, where President Zelenskyy partook in a banquet Monday evening with the Korean community there and underscored the importance of chip collaboration between Korea and the Netherlands. Our senior presidential correspondent Oh Soo-young reports.
President Yoon Suk-yeol pledged to turn the Korean-Dutch chip cooperation into a semiconductor alliance through his state visit this week, as South Korea looks to secure its supply chain of chip-making parts and equipment. Speaking at a banquet for around 100 Korean expats in Amsterdam after his arrival, he stressed that the focus of his visit is primarily about chips. Semiconductors made up 18.9% of the trade-dependent country's exports as of last year.
이번 방문을 계기로 한국과 네덜란드의 반도체 협력은 이제 반도체 동맹으로 그 관계가 격상되게 될 것입니다. 반도체는 우리의 산업뿐만 아니라 안보에도 중요한 그런 분야입니다.
Yoon and King Willem-Alexander will visit the headquarters of ASML, the world's largest producer of lithographers, core equipment used for making semiconductors. The heads of major chip producers Samsung and SK Hynix Lee Jae-yong and Choi Tae-won will also join the visit. The South Korean president will become the first world leader to have access to the clean room facility, where he is likely to get a glimpse of extreme ultraviolet lithography machines capable of producing 2-nanometer chips, roughly 10 to 15 times faster than 3-nanometer chips, currently the most advanced on the market. This, according to senior officials, indicates positive signals for South Korea in procuring the latest equipment to further boost its chip-making capacity.
The performance of microchips determines the fate of not only AI, quantum and biotechnology, but also advanced weaponry. Although Korea is a global chip-making powerhouse, it falls short in terms of equipment and materials. In order to maintain and develop our reputation as a chip manufacturing powerhouse, it is crucial to forge strategic alliances with countries leading in materials and equipment, such as the Netherlands, the United States and Japan.
The leader is expected to agree on a variety of deals, including on semiconductor cooperation and a dedicated dialogue channel, following his bilateral talks with Prime Minister Mark Rutte on Wednesday at The Hague.
물론 한국과 네덜란드는 국방 안보와 같은 이런 전략적 분야부터 시작해서 경제, 문화 교류까지 또 첨단 과학기술 분야의 교류까지 다양한 분야의 그 지평이 확대되고 있고 이번 방문을 통해서 많은 또 이런 협정과 MOU들이 체결되면서 한내의 관계가 더욱 깊어질 것입니다.
Yoon's official engagements began on Tuesday, marking the first state visit for a South Korean leader to the country in 62 years of bilateral ties, which were upgraded to a strategic partnership last year. The two-side strategic partnership will set out to bolster their security cooperation rooted in their solidarity of shared values and economic security cooperation based on their high-tech alliance. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News, Amsterdam.
And staying in Europe, the Vatican held a mass to celebrate 60 years of diplomatic relations with South Korea. The mass took place on Monday at the Archbasilica of St. John, Lateran. The Vatican Secretary of State presided over the mass, as it is the custom for the Pope to refrain from diplomatic events. Diplomatic relations between South Korea and Vatican City were established on December 11th, 1963. Meanwhile, back in September, a statue of the first Korean priest, Father Andrew Kim Tae-kon, was installed at St. Peter's Basilica. In the Middle East, Israel's calls on Palestinian militants to surrender continue, as their soldiers say they are close to dismantling the final 2 Hamas strongholds in northern Gaza. Our Ising-jae has the latest.
Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said Monday that Israeli troops are encircling Hamas's last 2 strongholds in northern Gaza, adding that Hamas battalions in the Jabalia and Shijaya areas are on the verge of dismantling. The defense minister added that the Hamas fighters that have already surrendered said they are short of weapons and food. He went on to say that Israeli forces are near a breaking point in the northern Gaza Strip, calling upon remaining Hamas fighters to surrender, as he promised to spare their lives if they do so. The comments come as the Israel Defense Forces and the Israeli Security Agency announced last week that more than 500 Hamas and Islamic Jihad fighters had been captured over the past month. Gaza's health ministry reported that over 18,000 Palestinians have now been killed since the start of the armed conflict. The ministry spokesperson also reported that the bodies of 208 dead Palestinians were transferred to hospitals in the Gaza Strip during the past 24 hours, with over 400 others injured during that time. He called on medical teams around the world to go to the Gaza Strip to help with life-saving operations for the wounded Gazans, stressing that hundreds of wounded people are seeking treatment. Meanwhile, according to a report by the Washington Post on Monday, Israel used U.S.-supplied white phosphorus munitions in an October attack in southern Lebanon that injured at least 9 civilians. According to the report, a journalist working for the Post found remnants of 3 155mm artillery rounds fired into Deira, near the border of Israel. The attacks incinerated at least 4 homes. The rounds were said to have been saturated with white phosphorus that burns at high temperatures. Despite accusations of war crimes by human rights groups, the Israel Defense Forces said that white phosphorus shells launched by Israel are used to create smoke screens, not for targeting or causing fires, adding that it complies and goes beyond the requirements of international law. Ising-jae, Arirang News.
Also on the international front, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is in the U.S. to rally continued support from Congress for Kyiv's defense against Moscow's invasion. Our Park Go-nu reports.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has arrived in Washington, D.C. on Monday in an attempt to rescue a U.S. defense support package worth $60 billion to Kyiv. The package is currently stalled in U.S. Congress as it's opposed by Republicans who are arguing that more money should be used for domestic security at the U.S.-Mexico border. Zelenskyy's appeal is seemingly even more crucial as Congress begins its holiday recess at the end of this week. According to a statement by the White House the day before, Zelenskyy's visit was meant to underscore the United States' unshakable commitment to supporting the people of Ukraine as they defend themselves against Russia's brutal invasion. The arrival of the Ukrainian president makes it his 3rd visit to the U.S. since the war began in February 2022. During Zelenskyy's speech at the National Defense University in Washington on Monday, he asked for continued support while saying Ukraine has not given up.
Ukrainians haven't given up and won't give up. We know what to do, and you can count on Ukraine, and we hope just as much to be able to count on you.
He added, when the support of freedom fighters goes down, that is when Russia's dreams come true. Following his remark, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin promised unshakable support for Kyiv.
And the United States is proud to stand with you. And make no mistake, America's commitment to supporting Ukraine against Russian aggression is unshakable.
Meanwhile, President Zelenskyy is also set to meet with U.S. President Joe Biden on Tuesday. They are expected to discuss the U.S.'s ongoing commitment to Ukraine as well as his country's need for more funds. Park Go-nu, Arirang News.
Over in the UAE, participants at COP28 are hammering out details of a draft deal to conclude this year's Global Summit on Climate Action, which, as expected, continues to fuel fierce debate. Our Ian Jin explains.
On Monday, a new draft of the COP28 agreement was published by the summit president, the United Arab Emirates. It proposed various options and called for reducing the production and consumption of fossil fuels, but the draft did not use the words phase out as seen in previous agreements. An earlier draft on Friday had included phase out, something climate campaigners, low-lying island states, and the European Union have been advocating for. But the latest draft calls for reducing the consumption and production of fossil fuels in a just, orderly, and equitable manner so as to achieve net zero by, before, or around 2050, in keeping with the science. It also provides 8 options that countries could use to cut emissions, including tripling renewable energy capacity by 2030 and scaling up technologies to capture CO2 emissions. And on the conference's final day on Tuesday, this year's president emphasized that there's still much to do and no time to waste.
We must still close many gaps. We don't have time to waste. We must deliver an outcome that respects the science and that keeps 1.5 within reach.
A new draft document is expected early on Tuesday, which would leave little time for further disagreement ahead of the scheduled close of the conference at 11 a.m. local time. Deals at UN climate summits must be passed by consensus by the nearly 200 countries present. According to Reuters, sources familiar with the discussions said the United Arab Emirates had come under pressure from Saudi Arabia to drop any mention of fossil fuels from the text. Saudi Arabia is the de facto leader of the OPEC oil producers group, of which the UAE is a member. Despite the rapid growth of renewable energy use, around 80% of the world's energy is produced using fossil fuels. 이은진, Arirang News.
In local news, preliminary registration of candidates for next April's general election has begun. Now, once registered, candidates can open a campaign office, distribute promotional materials and fundraise up to a maximum of 150 million won. The early registration offers new faces the chance to share their political agendas ahead of the official registration in March. However, the National Assembly has yet to finalize the electoral districts and rules for the election, meaning preliminary candidates are registering without specifying the districts they seek to represent. Across the border in North Korea, a delegation from Russia's Far Eastern Primorsky Krai arrived in Pyongyang on Monday. Now, this is according to the North's official newspaper, Sinmun, on Tuesday. The delegation is being led by the region's governor, Oleg Kozemiako, who had previously spoken about plans to boost cooperation in tourism, trade and agriculture with North Korea. Pundits believe the two sides may also discuss the possibility of North Korean labor in Russia, which is banned under UN Security Council resolutions. The $1 exchange rate fell in December amid a trade balance surplus in Korea and a weaker greenback. According to the Bank of Korea on this Tuesday, the Korean won closed at 1,306.8 won against the dollar back on Friday, dropping from 1,350.5 won at the end of October. Pundits are linking the weaker US dollar to widespread belief that the US Federal Reserve may soon put an end to its aggressive monetary policy. On the entertainment front, all 7 BTS members are enlisted in the military as of this Tuesday afternoon here in Korea, amid hopes that the K-pop sensation will return to the stage as a group in the second half of 2025. Our An Sung-jin reports.
With RM and V joining the army on Monday, the final 2 members of BTS, Jimin and Jungkook, are set to follow them on Tuesday afternoon. All the group's members were present at the guardhouse on Monday to send off RM and V, showing the group's strong bond. BTS leader RM said it would be a great chance for growth and inspiration and thanked BTS fans for their support. V also left a message on his social media noting that he will be making more precious memories with his fans after he completes his service. Starting with Jin in December 2022, the entirety of BTS will now be serving their country. Jin will be discharged first in June 2024, but BTS fans will have to wait until at least June 2025, when the final members are discharged before they can see BTS back together again. Just like their fandom name ARMY, most of the members will be serving in the army, apart from Suga, who is serving in social services due to a shoulder cartilage injury. J-Hope, the group's main performance dancer, joined the army in April this year and will be discharged in October 2024. The 4 members, RMV, Jimin, Jungkook, who joined this week, are all set to be discharged in June 2025. And as Suga's social service duty requires him to serve 3 more months in the regular army, he will be the last member to finish his duties a few days later. As some members will begin their solo endeavors after their discharge, hopes are high that they will gather together in 2025 and reinitiate their second chapter as a group. BTS is the first group in the world to top both the Billboard Hot 100 chart and Billboard 200 chart. The group topped multiple global music charts, spoke at the UN General Assembly twice, and were on the cover of Time magazine 3 times. In South Korea, all able-bodied men are required to serve in the military for at least 18 months. And the controversy on whether BTS would be able to waive their mandatory military service had persisted for a long time. Yet all of the members have voiced that they would not dodge their responsibilities. Han Sung-jin, Arirang News.
And in other news, as part of broader preparations against future pandemics, Korea has launched a global coordination office that will seek a unified, timely response to public health concerns. Our Choi Soo-young was at the office.
Over the course of the COVID pandemic, there is a growth in recognition of the need for cooperation between countries regarding global health security. To deal with these needs, the Global Health Security Coordination Office was opened on Monday in Cheongju City, Chungcheongbuk-do Province in South Korea. Commissioner Ji Young-mi of the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency said that following COVID-19, trust in Korea's health crisis response system has increased, leading to various requests for cooperation from around the world.
The post-COVID-19 era demands that we move beyond discussions and take practical actions to fortify our preparedness and response scheme. As a leading country in global health security, the Republic of Korea is delighted to announce the inauguration of GHS Coordination Office.
Due to the absence of such an office in the past, it was hard to share effective management outcomes from international conferences or policies for health security.
There was no coordination of all those outcomes of the evaluations. So with this establishment of coordination office in Korea, I think it will be really very beneficial for countries to really strengthen the capacity for health emergencies.
A total of 71 countries and 10 international organizations are participating and will hold a ministerial-level annual conference on health and medical issues. Commissioner Ji noted that Korea was part of the leading group of 16 countries, including the United States and the United Kingdom and Netherlands.
I think we are ready to play a leading role to take the shared responsibility for health emergencies. Korea is a leading country in Asia, but we can also play a role for the world.
The new office will serve as an executive secretariat, supporting exchanges of health information between countries and international organizations, providing experts in different fields and offering educational programs, among others. In the future, it will establish specific action plans in the areas of prevention, defense and response, which will include immunization, antimicrobial resistance, biosafety, and legal preparedness. Additionally, the office will coordinate and evaluate each country's operations and proceedings as part of a global health security agenda. Choi Soo-young, Arirang News, Cheongju.
Let's take a look at the latest news on the world now. The Polish parliament elected the centralist party leader Donald Tusk as prime minister on Monday, giving him a mandate to form a new coalition government. This would end the 8-year rule of the conservative populist Law and Justice Party. The incoming administration, formed by Prime Minister Tusk, will be sworn in at the presidential palace by President Andrzej Duda on Wednesday. Tusk's coalition won the elections in October, but Law and Justice Party ally President Duda nominated that party's leader, Mateusz Morawiecki, to remain in office, delaying the formation of the new government for weeks. Tusk's coalition consists of 3 groups: his own Civic Coalition, the Third Way, and the Left. Donald Tusk previously served as Poland's prime minister from 2007 to 2014 and European Council president from 2014 to 2019. In Switzerland, a gunman on Monday killed 2 people and injured 1 in the southern town of Sion. The alleged suspect has been found and arrested following an 8-hour manhunt. The suspect, a 36-year-old man, fired several shots in the Swiss alpine town of Sion, killing his first victim, 34-year-old female, in a car park, then the second, a 41-year-old man, soon after. The shooter also shot and injured a 49-year-old female. Police proceeded with roadblocks and an active manhunt, which led to the suspect's arrest on Monday afternoon. Around 2.3 million of Switzerland's 9 million population own a gun, but gun-related homicides are rare. New York State Governor Kathy Hochul announced on Monday a $10 billion partnership with semiconductor industry leaders to make New York State a semiconductor capital of the world. Semiconductor giants such as Applied Materials, IBM, Micron, Tokyo Electron, and others have joined to establish a next-generation research and development center at Albany Nanotech Complex, which will house over 50,000 square feet of clean room space. Governor Hochul also announced that New York State is investing $1 billion as part of the new enterprise and aims to create over 700 jobs. The partnership will fund the active research and development of semiconductors through the construction of a cutting-edge, high numerical aperture, extreme ultraviolet lithography center. The nominees for the 81st Golden Globe Awards were announced on Monday. Hollywood blockbuster Barbie received 9 nominations, putting it on the top of the list. Historical drama Oppenheimer followed with a total of 8 nominations. Korean-Canadian director Celine Song's Past Lives received 5 nominations, including Best Motion Picture for Drama. This year, the winners of Golden Globe Awards will be chosen by a new, more ethnically and racially diverse voting body of 300 journalists from 75 countries. The previous voting body of Hollywood Foreign Press Association was disbanded in June for ethical lapses and lack of diversity. Kim Ji-young, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. This year's December has surely been an extreme one, from record-breaking spring warms to a rain advisory being issued in Gangwon-do for the first time in December and a snowstorm on the same day. Mountainous regions could see 15 centimeters of more snow fall through tonight, while the rest of the country should see rain going away as the day goes on. Also, strong winds continue in most places, with a wind advisory issued in Jeju and coastline in Jeollanam-do and Gyeongsang-do provinces. Please stay safe. Afternoon highs are 3 to 5 degrees lower than yesterday. Seoul topping out at 9 degrees, but there has been a big drop in highs on Jeju from yesterday's 21 to today's 14 degrees Celsius. But the capital area can expect sunnier skies this afternoon. The warming trend continues through the end of the week, but rain later in the week will bring teeth-chattering temperatures to the country starting Sunday, going down to as low as minus 15 degrees next week. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
And that is all the time we have for Tuesday's afternoon newscast. Coming up right after this break is our daily panel session. Do stay with us. Thank you for now.
Hi, my name is Tamara Mawini. I am Canada's ambassador to the Republic of Korea. I know that Arirang TV and Arirang Media has been very active in sharing around the world the wonders and achievements in Korea, and I really look forward to all their future endeavors and how they will help promote strong media, freedom of expression, journalism, and culture into the future. And Canada's excited to be part of that. Really welcomed Arirang's engagement in our own 60th anniversary of diplomatic relations this year between Canada and Korea, and we look forward to continuing the partnership. Thank you. 감사합니다. Resonating with the world, Arirang.
Contour the world, simply contour. India, the United Kingdom, New Zealand. Woo!
I'm excited. You excited?
Of course.
Yeah.
Music, start.
한국에 오면 먹어야죠. 먹어도 끝이 없는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? 웰컴. (24시간) 불이 꺼지지 않는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
Completely new. But something anyone can relate with. Flawlessly made. The laughs and tears that go with it. K-drama. Korea is coming at you with another story to tell.
All BTS members are in the military as of this Tuesday, raising much anticipation about their future return as a group on the K-pop stage as early as June 2025. Meanwhile, on screens nationwide, a Korean production about a painful chapter in the country's modern history has both the young and old flocking to local theatres. Hello and welcome to Tuesday's edition of Issues and Insiders. I'm Min Sanhee. Today we touch upon the latest on K-entertainment, starting off with news about all BTS members now serving their country. For this, I have Jeff Benjamin live on the line. Jeff, as always, it's a pleasure.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Right, Jeff, as I mentioned in the short clip, as of this Tuesday, with the enlistment, I believe, of Jimin and Jungkook, all BTS members, all 7 of them, are now serving their country. How does their absence, Jeff, look to affect the K-pop industry, do you think?
You know, it's a day that I think a lot of people in the industry as music fans, as just general music fans, we're not looking to, but it inevitably has come. And I really do think that I don't think, you know, sometimes they say you don't know what you got until it's gone. And I think BTS's absence, right, it's going to highlight, I think, really how far they came. The types of achievements and accomplishments that BTS was able to create, not just as a group, but also as individuals. It's something that really has not been able to be recreated from, you know, arguably really any outside country in that same way when it comes to a group and the individuals. It's kind of it's going to be a big gap to fill, as they say, and I think it's going to really just show just kind of what level BTS was at versus, you know, when you think about, you know, where else other artists in the industry are, et cetera. I think it's really just going to show just really, again, how far and how much accomplished this group had done, both as a group and as individual solo artists.
Right, and speaking about that, Jeff, like you mentioned, prior to their enlistment, a number of BTS members partook in solo projects. Could you highlight a couple of them for us? And how do you assess these solo endeavors?
Yeah, so once again, you know, BTS, all of these members who have put out solo projects, you're just not seeing the same groups, other groups of their caliber, being able to hit the accomplishments that they're being able to hit, especially on that global level. All the different members put out their different solo projects, and more than anything, you know, of course, there were huge records broken. Just the other week, Jungkook, with his golden solo album, was able to break the record for largest selling soloist K-pop album. I believe in a week's time, he had the highest charting album on the Billboard 200 chart. But I think more than the records, more than that, we really got to learn about the members individually themselves. We're kind of seeing clips right now of just all their different musical styles, whether this is RM's great collaboration with Anderson .Paak and the eclectic album he had, which we named the number 1 K-pop album of 2022 last year. I love RM's Indigo album. But then, you know, we see Jimin's powerful performance solo record, or V right here with his, oh, that's not V actually, but August D, Suga's album that got very personal, intricate hip hop in that way, or V with his solo album that showcased his jazz side. There were so many special things that we got to see from these individual artists, and I think it's so special that while, yes, we do have this unfortunate break that's happening right now, not as much music will be coming out, we did really get these special photographs and these kind of captures of time from these guys, so that we not only remember what BTS did as a group, but we also remember what they shared with us as the individuals that they are too.
Right, indeed. Now, Jeff, in the meantime, though, there are hopes, very, very high hopes, that BTS will be able to join us soon as perhaps in the summer of 2025 as a group after they serve their military. What are your prospects regarding the second chapter, so to speak, of their performance as a group?
Yeah, if any group can defy expectations and make a huge comeback, it would be BTS. And I think they're set up for success in this way. And I give a lot of that credit to the fact that they have re-signed their contract several times with HYBE's Big Hit Music at this point. There are plans for them to continue after each member finishes his required enlistment and military service. So there isn't the same sense that you sometimes see with not just K-pop groups, but with pop groups at large, that many a times they need, to consider other agencies that certain members have signed with, or different managers or agents. Instead, BTS is keeping everything at the home base. So the prospects of them coming back, I think, are very likely, because they do have that core team that's been working with them from the beginning, still looking out for them, still kind of pushing them in that same way. And also, we've seen how well BTS has sort of navigated this second chapter so far already. They've done really great at preparing contents for fans to be able to see while they're out. We've been able to see all the different things that they're doing, photo shoots, songs, new music. I think there's still surprises on the way. So they've done a really good job at kind of not making it feel so intimidating as a break like that.
Right, so I suppose for BTS, it's going to be absence making the heart grow fonder. But in the meantime, though, Jeff, what are some ways that other K-pop acts could perhaps work to fill the void, for now, left by BTS?
Well, and I think that's almost kind of the problem in the thinking that I'm kind of seeing in the industry, is that in the media side, in the industry side, there's so much of this, I'm always being asked, who's the next BTS? And I think that's kind of the issue, is that BTS didn't come up and say they're the next so-and-so or they're replacing someone. If you think about it, BTS debuted less than 2 years after One Direction was sort of taking over the world as the world's favorite boy band at the time. There is not really a place, or you don't need to fall in line and follow someone and do the same thing they did. I think the right artists and the artists who will break out and able to create their own history of their own are the ones who don't necessarily need to follow history or feel like they need to follow in footsteps beforehand, but instead create their own path, create their own history. So it's an interesting question. I know why the question comes up a lot, but I think we're not going to see a group kind of hit those same, impacts and milestones as BTS until I think we, release this idea that anyone needs to try to follow them. I always just encourage artists to be themselves, follow your own path,
Right, I would have to agree with you there. And talking about following your own path, Jeff, a number of K-pop companies are seeking to establish base in the U.S. in search of new talent. What are your thoughts regarding these endeavors?
Yeah, it's an exciting time. I think it's a really interesting thing, right? Especially when we're looking at BTS. In that segment earlier in the program right before this, there was all this talk of BTS's accomplishments. And when you've had something that successful and someone who's just made such an iconic career in and of themselves, you have to get innovative with how you approach it next. And I think that's why we're seeing those leaders like JYP Entertainment teaming up with Republic Records, another the top record label year over year it tends to be in the U.S., come together for a global American girl group in that way. I've really liked what they've put out so far. Vicha, they announced that their official debut is coming at the top of next year. HYBE and Geffen Records also put out a project, a more internationally based group in that way. So we're seeing the innovations happening. There are ways that these companies, I think, are looking to try to see, okay, well, if we can't recreate that history or try to fill these voids, what have you, making new history is an admirable goal. And I'm so excited to kind of see what comes of all this.
So am I, Jeff. All right, then. Thank you so much for the update on the latest with regard to K-pop. That is. See you soon, Jeff.
Thank you so much. See you soon.
Right, well, up next, we touch upon a screen production here that has been raking in rave reviews. And for this, I have Jason Bechevaise with me here in the studio. Jason, it's been a while. Welcome back.
Oh, well, thank you for having me, as always.
Right, now, for the sake of our viewers, like myself, who have yet to watch 12/12 The Day, could we start off with a brief synopsis?
Yeah, absolutely. It's based on the military coup d'etat that took place on December 12th, 1979. It focuses on this character. It focuses on a couple of characters. One being this character called Hwang Chun-do-kwang, played by Hwang Jong-min. This is the Chun-do-won character, and in the film it focuses on how he leads this investigation into the assassination of Park Chung-hee, who was shot in October of 1979. And you see how he basically tries to consolidate his power and position himself to stage this military coup. And then you have this, the head of the kind of military, the garrison in Seoul, played by Jung Woo-sung. And so he tries to thwart the general's plan. So that's essentially the main narrative of the film. And then you have all these kind of other characters as well, but I think one of the reasons it works so well actually is because it focuses on these two central characters, because I was a little bit worried going in that it might just get a bit too convoluted, and that's not the case. It's directed by Kim Sung-soo, who's been he's an established filmmaker in Korea. He's made films such as Beat, starring Jung Woo-sung. He also has helmed other films including Asura, starring Jung Woo-sung and Hwang Jong-min, so and a number of other movies, including The Flu, but this is by far his biggest hit.
Well, it's gathering quite a bit of a fan base here in the country. Jason, what do you suppose is fueling the popularity behind this particular production?
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought it could do quite well, but I've been surprised by how well the film has been received. I think that there's a few reasons. I mean, it's worth mentioning, and it's important to mention that it is a very well-made film. It's, you know, it's riveting to watch. You know the end, what's going to happen at the end of the film, because it is sadly, you know, a portrayal of a tragic chapter in Korea's history. So, but you know, that's true of a film like Memories of Murder as well, which is set in the 80s, and viewers knew what happened at the end of the movie and that they weren't able to catch the serial killer. But I think also what's particularly commendable about this film is the way it kind of humanizes events. Now, what I mean by that is it doesn't kind of make it overly sentimental, and you've got Korean films that such as Taxi Driver and also The Attorney as well, which focus on one character. These are films set in the 1980s, but this film focuses on choices. It focuses on decisions that these people made, and I think for me that's what was really striking about the film, and it kind of draws you in because these decisions would have a lasting impact on history. So even though you've got these, you know, you've got the Chun Do-won character he's essentially the villainous character in the movie, but the film feels familiar. It doesn't feel detached from reality, and I think its strength is the way it focuses on these decisions, and we all have to make decisions, sometimes in the heat of the moment, and that's what these characters do, and you see what happens as a result and how it affects Korea's history. And I think also it's attracting both younger audiences and older audiences.
That's actually what I was going to ask you right now. I mean, I understand why senior citizens would be interested in the movie. They've lived a part of that event as well. But why is it that the young Koreans are equally as interested in this particular film?
Yeah, well, I've been talking to my students about this. So, you know, this is the kind of the Gen Z generation, and I think the younger viewers are just less familiar with the history. And I think it's interesting to kind of draw their reactions, and many of them feel very, very angry. They feel somewhat shaken by the film, actually, because they're not, you know, they didn't experience it like their parents did or their grandparents. So I think it's almost like a bit of a history lesson for the younger generation, and I think that's a really good thing. I mean, one of the things I've admired about Korean films over the years is the way they portray culture and the complexities of not just the culture but the history. You know, I mentioned Memories of Murder earlier. You've also got films like A Taxi Driver, and they all tackle history in different ways, and this film is true as well. I've mentioned one of the ways in which you can differentiate it from the other features that tackle you know, different areas of Korean history. And I think, you know, the younger audience is less kind of knowledgeable about this period, and they're learning a lot by watching this film. And I think it's a film that they can go and watch with their parents. And you look at the films that have historically done very well in Korea. It's these films that attract both younger, you know, and older audiences, kind of cross-generational. You know, films like Ode to My Father as well, you know, where you'd hear stories of kind of granddaughters going with their grandparents to watch the film. And I think that's also perhaps true here as well. It appeals to both the young and old, and for different reasons.
And that all being said, Jason, do you see this particular production as becoming perhaps the second film this year to hit the 10 million mark in terms of ticket sales?
Yeah, I hope so. It's a bit premature to say. I mean, it's slowing down a little bit in terms of the momentum. I mean, it's worth noting here that 10 million admissions is this kind of mega hit kind of benchmark, and any film that goes over it is basically, you know, seen as an extremely popular film. It could well do, I hope so. It's looking that way. It's still, in terms of reservations, I mean, it's well over 7 million admissions at this point. There's not much in the way of competition going forward, although there are 1 or 2 films released over the Christmas period. But I think this film will continue to be popular right through to the end of the year and early next year. So, yes, I do think it will hit 10 million admissions.
Quite a number of critics, Jason, have been applauding Hwang Jung-min's performance in this particular film. What are your thoughts regarding his acting here? Yeah, I'm really glad that you mentioned that. I mean, Hwang Jung-min is an actor who I've long admired. He's been in films such as, you know, these iconic films, A Bittersweet Life, A Good Lawyer's Wife. He's just been around for decades almost, right? So and I think, going back to an earlier point I made, there's a scene at the end of the film where his character successfully staged this military coup, and it's in this kind of almost like, in this bathroom, and he's it's a public restroom, I can't remember, but I think it hits him what he's done. And for me, that was a really profound moment, because you realise he's actually human, right? He's not this character out of... It is a film, of course, and there are things that, I mean, historians will probably debate how accurate it is or how inaccurate it is, but and so there are things in the film that didn't really happen. But his character does feel very, very real, and I commend him for his performance. It is really powerful, it is intense, and I think there is a danger to kind of overcook a performance where you kind of put a lot of energy into it. That's not really true here. There's certainly moments where where his character does get quite intense, as I said, but at the same time it does feel very real and familiar. So and there was that moment at the end of the film, as I just said, that I think really struck me as really profound. I have to watch it. I haven't yet watched it. I'm saving it for Christmas. Jason, that being said, what do you suppose are the broader implications of the popularity of this particular production?
Well, I mean, for one, it's an original film, so it's not based on IP, so intellectual property. And last year, if you look at the films that did really well, and even earlier this year with the Roundup, they're films either sequels or based on, you know, existing intellectual property. This year, what we're seeing is films that are actually kind of original movies. So The Smugglers is a good example of that. I mean, The Roundup did really well, which is a sequel. There's also Concrete Utopia, which is based on a webtoon, but it's not a sequel that is being made into a kind of whole franchise. There's a sequel that's already been made, and that they've made a series as well. But I think, looking at the animation, the animated films that have done really well this year, Elemental, which is not a Korean film, of course, but the Japanese animes as well. So it's just, I think there is a real hunger for kind of original films, and so yes, many of them are based on comics or webtoons, but I think compared to last year where it was just sequel after sequel after sequel, I think, and the fact that this film does so well, it's not a second part or a third part, I think is really encouraging for the industry. It's been a really tough year. I can't stress enough how tough it has been for the Korean industry. I mean, it's been a bit surreal because on the one hand you've got Korean content doing so well overseas, following the success of Parasite and of course Squid Game, and it's made me very busy, and I'm very blessed and fortunate to be in the position I'm in, talking about the popularity and the hunger, the appetite for Korean content. But domestically, it has been a very, very challenging and difficult year. Only I think this is this film, 12 The Day, Seoul Bomb is the Korean title. It is the sixth film to break even this year, and we only have a handful of films released over Christmas and New Year, which I think is reflective of how difficult the market is right now.
And tell us a bit more about the films we can look forward to this particular season.
Okay, so we've got Noryang, which is the new film by Kim Han-min. He made Roaring Currents, which was this film based on the famous Admiral Lee Sun-shin. So this is the third film in that kind of series based on the famous Admiral. The first film did really, really well. Sold over 17 million tickets. So this is the third film of the series. I think it's destined to do well, and given the success of 12 The Day, I think potentially it could perform quite well, but we'll have to wait and see.
Right.
And there's also Alienoid Part 2. So Alienoid was a film directed by Choi Dong-hun. It didn't, in fact, it bombed. It was basically a film split into two parts. And what I'm hoping is, because I thought the first part was pretty good, but it is science fiction, and science fiction has been a tough sell for Korean audiences in cinemas. Science fiction is not really a genre that's worked so well in Korean content, although it's made there have been some really interesting examples. Save the Green Planet is a classic, but when it comes to actually making these films work for Korean audiences, many of them have flopped, including Alienoid Part 1. So what I'm hoping is that people watch Alienoid Part 1 on streaming platforms and then want to see the second part in the cinema, which is, I think it's being released in January. So there are two films to look forward to.
Right, I see. All right, Jason, as always, thank you so much for your time and your thoughts.
No worries, thank you for having me.
Right, and as Jason pointed out, it's December 12th here in Korea. For those of you who have yet to watch 12 The Day, do watch it this coming weekend then. Well, that is all for this edition of Issues and Insiders. Thank you for watching. See you same time tomorrow.